watch your videos.
I appreciate it, bro. I appreciate it. All right, guys. What's going on? All right. I was gonna ask you who was gonna win, but I don't have to ask now. What's up, y'all? All right, y'all. All right.
Today's Boxing Nation.
My man. Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? You know, when I first seen Danny Jacobs knock out Peter Quillin, and then this past weekend I seen Billy Joe Saunders beat up on Andy Lee, I said to myself, finally, there is some decent competition for Gennady Golovkin. This is good. Now we're going to see at least him tested a little bit, right? This is what I'm thinking. This is a good thing, right? Then all of a sudden, after Danny Jacobs beats Peter Quillin, now it's crazy because in the fashion that he beat him, I'm already thinking Danny Jacobs versus Gennady Golovkin, you could easily say that's now somewhat of a 50-50 fight or a 60-40 fight in favor of Gennady Golovkin, right? But no matter how you look at it, it's a far more competitive fight than what we've been seeing when it comes to Gennady Golovkin. We're used to Golovkin going in there with a fighter that we all know he's going to beat easy because that guy is not on Golovkin's level, right? So I was really looking forward to watching that fight. Then after the fight, everyone is asking Danny Jacobs, you know, who you want next, and I notice a pattern. He keeps bringing up Chris Eubanks, the winner of Saunders and Lee, and then he'll say like, oh, you know, and anyone else. But he would never really mention Gennady Golovkin's name. Then eventually he said, well, you know, I'm not afraid of anybody. I'll fight Golovkin, but I just have to get fair money. When you hear a fighter say something like that, that is a red flag. So when he said that, I already knew what it meant. It meant Danny Jacobs, he wants no parts of Gennady Golovkin. I mean, when you start saying, oh, well, I get in the ring with him for this amount of money, that amount of money, first of all, that's no different than Leo Santa Cruz saying, oh yeah, I'll fight Guillermo Rigondeaux for $3 million, right? I mean, you sit over here and you say, if you give me $3 million, I'll get in the ring with Guillermo Rigondeaux. That's telling you the man is saying, if I get in the ring with that monster, just in case he ends my career, at least I have some good ass retirement money to do other things in life, right? That's no different than when I was a little kid and I would hear my uncles and all of them say, oh man, yeah, I get in the ring with Mike Tyson for $1 million. He could knock me out and I'm going straight to the bank right after he knocked me out, right? It's the same thing. So when you hear someone say, like Danny Jacobs, which really surprised me because I give Danny Jacobs a good chance at beating Gennady Golovkin, okay? Not saying he wins, but he has a very good chance to win that fight. That is a very competitive fight. So to hear Danny Jacobs say something like that, it was really surprising to me. It was really surprising to me. And then you have Billy Joe Saunders, who just recently said something very similar. You got Danny Jacobs saying, I'll fight him for $3 million. And now you got Billy Joe Saunders saying, I'll fight him for $4 million. So clearly, neither one of these fighters want to fight Gennady Golovkin. So is that Golovkin's fault? Absolutely not. Not his fault at all. I was really looking forward to seeing these fights, to just see who really is the best at the middleweight division. I thought we was going to get somewhat of like a Super 4 or even add 2 other fighters and have like a Super 6 type tournament in the middleweight division. I was looking forward to something like that. But now I know it's not going to happen. So the question now is, if Gennady Golovkin is in the division, first of all, the division was already one of the weakest divisions. I mean, because if you compare 160 to 154, at 154, you got Jamal Charlo, Demetrius Andrade. You got Eric Walker, who just beat the undefeated Chris Pearson. And you still have Chris Pearson in that mix. You still got Vanes Martirosyan. You got Julian Williams. You got Austin Trout. You got Edislani Lara. The list goes on and on and on. That's all at 154. Now at 168, you had Andre Ward until Golovkin decided to turn that fight down. But now you have James DeGale, who is pound for pound the best fighter at 168. So in other words, if you really think about it, he's somewhat of the Golovkin of the super middleweight division, right? So this is the question when it comes to Gennady Golovkin. Now you guys remember all of the Golovkin fans that were basically defending Golovkin when it came to Lara calling him out, when it came to Andre Ward calling him out, when it came to James DeGale calling him out. You know what the Golovkin fans will say? Oh, just give it some time. He wants to clean up the middleweight division first. He wants to win all the belts and then he'll fight those guys. So now that these other champions are not willing to fight him, what should Golovkin do next? What should he do next? Because he's not going to clean up the division and get the belts. So what should he do? Matter of fact, let me tell you what Andre Ward did when he was in that exact same situation. Andre Ward was aggressively pursuing a Gennady Golovkin fight, right? Gennady Golovkin he wanted no parts of Andre Ward. In fact, just to show Golovkin that Andre Ward meant business, Andre Ward, he had his people, Rock Nation, actually contact Golovkin's people. Called them up, tried to make a fight. And Rock Nation said they hung up on us in 5 minutes. Unlike the misguided fans that you guys see posting comments on the internet, Team Golovkin did not make any excuses. They didn't say, well, no, we don't want the fight because Ward wants too much money. They didn't say, oh, well, we don't want the fight because Ward, he wants it at 168 and we want it at 164. Team Golovkin didn't make one single excuse why they didn't want the fight. They just simply said, we are going in a different direction. And then they said, maybe in the next 2 years or something. Doesn't that sound very similar, guys? That last part. Maybe in the next 2 years we'll fight him. Didn't another fighter just say that about Golovkin? That's right. Billy Joe Saunders just said that. He said, maybe in the next 18 months, I'll be ready to fight Golovkin, but not now. So what did that mean when Saunders said that about Golovkin? It means the same thing Team Golovkin said when they were talking about Andre Ward, right? It works the same way. It can't work differently for different fighters. The same thing Saunders said is the same thing Golovkin said, which means that guy is on a whole nother level and we're not ready for him. So going back to my original question, a lot of you Golovkin fans said, let Golovkin clean up the middleweight division, get all the belts first, and then he'll fight the James DeGales, the Andre Wards, and et cetera, et cetera. So now that we know he's not going to get these belts, these other belts at middleweight, once again, the question is, what should he do next? You know what Andre Ward did? When Andre Ward couldn't get the Gennady Golovkin fight, he dared to be great. And what he did was he moved up to a higher weight class and signed a 3-fight contract deal with HBO to fight the biggest, baddest champion at 175 pounds, and that's Sergey Kovalev. Daring to be great. So what should Golovkin do? Should he do the same thing that Andre Ward did? I mean, what else is there for him to do to prove that he's a great champion, right? What is he going to do? Guys, I want you to answer this question. If Golovkin is not going to fight any of the other champions at middleweight, Who would you like to see him fight next? I mean, let's say he doesn't get the Canelo fight. We already know he's not getting the Canelo fight next. Okay? So who should Golovkin fight next? Canelo is not an option. Billy Joe Saunders, Danny Jacobs, Chris Eubanks, none of those guys are options. Who should Golovkin fight next? You have Edislani Lara calling him out. You have James DeGale calling him out. Who else is there for Golovkin to fight? There are good champions and there are great champions. The great champions, they move up in weight to seek new challenges, to seek tougher challenges. Okay? Manny Pacquiao, for example, won titles in 8 different weight classes. Floyd Mayweather won titles in 5 different weight classes. You have other fighters like Roberto Duran, Tommy Hearns, moved up in higher weight classes and won titles. Gennady Golovkin, sure, he's strong at one division, at his natural division. But how does he match up when he moves up in weight and he's fighting guys that are equally as strong as he is? Then we will really see how good Gennady Golovkin is, right? We already seen Golovkin completely abandon his style when he fought against the first power puncher that he faced, the first real power puncher at the middleweight division, which was David Lemieux. We seen he altered his style just because of Lemieux's power. If Golovkin fights a safety first fight against David Lemieux, just imagine how Golovkin would fight, let's just say, a Marcos Maidana type of opponent. Let's put Golovkin in the same position that Floyd Mayweather was in. Marcos Maidana was nearly 20 pounds bigger than Floyd Mayweather. Imagine Gennady Golovkin in the ring with a guy who's 20 pounds bigger than him, who's probably stronger than him, if not just as strong as he is, and the guy is extremely unorthodox and all over you like a cheap suit. Can you guys imagine how that fight would turn out? How Golovkin would react? We can't answer the question because we've never seen it before. But we need to see it. We need to see it. When Floyd Mayweather was, a lot of people don't realize this, but when Floyd Mayweather wasn't a superstar, Floyd Mayweather was one of the most avoided fighters in boxing. And when I say one of the most avoided, I'm talking about undefeated, some of the biggest names in boxing, they were avoiding Floyd Mayweather. Casamayor, a fighter that I really liked a lot. Joel Casamayor. Acelino Popo Freitas, power puncher from Brazil. Undefeated, very good fighter. He avoided Floyd Mayweather. The undefeated power puncher Naseem Hamed, he avoided Floyd Mayweather. Shane Mosley, when he was young and undefeated, he avoided Floyd Mayweather. All of these fighters turned down an opportunity to fight Floyd Mayweather, right? When Floyd Mayweather was fighting at, was it 130 or 135? One of those divisions, I believe it was 130. He wanted to fight Naseem Hamed. Naseem Hamed turned the fight down. It's ironic because the situation is very similar to Andre Ward calling out Gennady Golovkin. Floyd Mayweather did the same thing that Andre Ward did. Floyd knew that if he could get that undefeated Naseem Hamed in the ring, that would be a huge fight. And it would play a major role into transforming Floyd Mayweather into a superstar. What is Golovkin willing to do to show people that he's not a hype job and he really is one of the best fighters in the world, if not the best fighter in the world? Do you guys know that when Floyd Mayweather was a lightweight, he was already calling out fighters that were 3 divisions higher than he was? This is how bad Floyd Mayweather wanted to prove that he was the best. Guillermo Rigondeaux, when he was fighting at 118, I tell you guys this all the time, Rigo is a natural 118 pounder, guys. The only reason he moved up to 122 is because Donaire had moved up to 122. And Guillermo Rigondeaux was daring to be great. He said, if you move up, I move up. Eventually, he forced Donaire to get in the ring with him, and he beat him. Now, none of the champions want to fight Guillermo Rigondeaux at 122. So now he's contemplating moving up to 126, right? He's already moved up one weight class to look for tough challenges. Now he's thinking about moving up another one. Gennady Golovkin hasn't even moved up one weight class yet. So I asked you guys the question one more time. If Golovkin is not going to fight Canelo next, if he's not fighting Saunders, Chris Eubanks, Danny Jacobs, if he's not fighting any of these guys next, who should he fight next? Now, I will tell you guys that Toriano Johnson is supposed to be Golovkin's mandatory, and that's a fight that I don't mind watching. It's a different type of style. Unlike David Lemieux, Toriano Johnson is a real aggressive fighter. He's not someone who's just going to lay back and hope to land some wild-ass wing and punch. No, Toriano Johnson is pretty much the Marcos Maidana of the middleweight division. Okay, you guys heard me talking about Maidana before. Well, Toriano Johnson is probably the closest thing to Maidana. He might be a little bit more, he might have a little bit more technique than Maidana, but he's the closest thing to Maidana. And it will definitely be a test to see how Golovkin deals with someone all over him like a cheap-ass suit. I hear some of you casual fans always talking about fighters that run, fighters that hold, and all that kind of stuff. I'm telling you guys right now, mark my words. Before Golovkin's career is over, you guys are going to see him quote-unquote run, and you guys are going to definitely see him hold. Because fighters usually hold or quote-unquote run because of the style of their opponent. Golovkin has never been in the ring with a fighter to where he had to run. All of Golovkin's opponents up until this point have been compliant. They've all conformed to what Golovkin wanted them to do, right? But eventually you're going to fight fighters that aren't going to be so obedient. And they're going to go in there and do what you don't want them to do. And that's when we're going to see a different type of Golovkin. Matter of fact, we already seen a different type of Golovkin when he fought against David Lemieux. Think about that for a second, guys. When you look at fighters like Mike Tyson, one thing you'll notice about Mike Tyson is no matter how hard his opponent punches, Mike Tyson always fought the same way, right? He always had the same killer instinct. He never turned into a boxer because he felt his opponent was too hard of a puncher. No, he didn't care. You guys remember when Mike Tyson fought Razor Ruddock? Razor Ruddock was catching Mike Tyson with clean-ass uppercuts and hooks. And Mike Tyson said at the end of the fight, that guy hits like a fucking mule, right? But even though he hit like a mule, Mike Tyson continued to apply pressure. That's not Gennady Golovkin, guys. That's not Gennady Golovkin. Golovkin is a type of fighter that will alter his style depending on how dangerous the opponent is. So if Gennady Golovkin seen someone like a David Lemieux as more dangerous, imagine how he's going to see opponents at 168 that are stronger and way more skilled than David Lemieux. Or even a Toriano Johnson, a guy who's going to be all over you. And keep in mind, Toriano Johnson is taller than Golovkin, okay? Or at least the same height. He's around the same height, he has a good chin, and he punches with both hands. and he's going to be on the inside. Mark my words once again. If we see Golovkin versus Toriano Johnson, for all you fans that are very selective on who you say, are people that hold, which, are often people you stereotype, like the people on the coincidental list. For all you guys saying, oh, this guy holds, that guy holds, mark my words, you are going to see Golovkin doing a lot of holding if he fights against Toriano Johnson. Just like when the very tough, aka the Machine, Lucas Matisse, when he fought against Ruslan Provodnikov, what did we see? All of a sudden, we seen him in the ring, moving around, what you guys would call running, and holding, okay? Like I said before, Mike Tyson, he never ran, he never held. He was true to that style that he was implementing. We're going to see Golovkin do some holding, and we're going to see him doing some quote-unquote running in the Toriano Johnson fight if they fight. And even if it isn't in the Toriano Johnson fight, we're going to see it eventually. Mark my words. So I'll leave you with the inevitable question. Once again, who should Golovkin fight next if he can't fight any of the guys that he wants to? That's all I got. I'm on to the next one.
This is Bobby, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.